Hey, have you ever tried a rusty nail? Welcome back, and today I'm going to create the rusty nail. Now, the rusty nail is essentially, think of it in a variation of a Scotch martini. To an extent, allow me to explain. When I say it's a variant of like a Scotch martini, I mean in like how you have a martini, whether it's a gin martini or a martinez, where it's one part of a liqueur and then two parts of an alcohol. This is similar, however, there is a key difference. Instead of it being served up in, say, a coupe or Nick and Nora, this will be served on a big rock in a rocks glass. Now, why is it called a rusty nail? Truthfully, I don't know if anyone truly knows. Some believe it was created in the 1930s during a British trade show, but the first or earliest idea that others can find in terms of print for this cocktail is from the 1967 Old Mr. Boston Official Bartender's Guide, though some believe that a similar rendition to this is from the 1951 book Bottoms Up by Tim Saucier. By the 1960s, bartenders were starting to serve this, and some bartenders in New York City and New Orleans would actually go to their bar patrons and say, "Have you ever tried a rusty nail?" And of course, some bar patrons, being rather quizzical, are like, "I don't think I have." So they would be served a rusty nail. History also says that the Rat Pack may have also enjoyed this drink, which led to its popularity, because obviously the Rat Pack were thought of as these really cool people. So obviously, if you see cool people doing something, people want to be cool. It's it's an effect of peer pressure. So they would order rusty nails. This was also served a lot at PJ Clark's, which was a bar that Frank Sinatra, the chairman himself, was known to go to very often. There is some debate on exactly what the ratio should be. According to Ted Hay, this should be a 2-to-1. Now, not a 2-ounce pour of Scotch and 1-ounce pour of the liqueur, which is Drambuie. Drambuie, to get off to a slight aside, Drambuie is a liqueur that is made from Scotch, but also utilizes honey to help sweeten. And so this could be a bit of an extra Scotch hit. Don't know, I haven't tried this. Back to what we're talking about, the consternation. Ted Hay says that it should be a 2-to-1, but the Old Mr. Boston Guide cites a 1-to-1. And there have also been calls for as much as 4-to-1 whiskey to the liqueur. I'm not going to go through every single variation on that, because no, but I am going to go through a 2-to-1, and I'm going to go through a variant of the rusty nail, but that will be coming in momentarily. So let's make this. So it's going to be a stirred cocktail. I'm going to use the small tin of my shaker. You might have seen me do this when I had, say, the El Presidente. Reason I'm using this instead of a mixing glass is because I'm making the other one, and I'm going to use that instead, just for a little bit of a different feature. So to this, welcome to the party, Drambuie. Good pop. And I need 3/4 of an ounce of Drambuie, which is a unique blend of aged Scotch whiskey, heather, honey, herbs, and spices. Interesting. And actually, I'm going to keep that right there. We will be needing that momentarily. And now I need Scotch. I'm using a blended Scotch. There's also question about what type of Scotch to use. You could use a peated Scotch. So if you want to use, say, like Compass Box, the Peat Monster, you could. I'm using Johnny Walker Black, which is slightly peated. It's not too peated. If you want to use Lafroig, Lagavulin, you could. Ardbeg, maybe. But for me, I'm using this because I'm also going to use this for the variation on this momentarily. So, that being said, need 1.5 ounces of blended Scotch. And I'll also keep that there momentarily. Be right back with the ice. Now to add ice, I'm going to add as many cubes as I want. Grab a bar spoon. Give this a stir. So you're going to want to take a rocks glass and a big cube of ice. Hawthorn down. Strain on in. And this is a rusty nail. Okay. That's interesting. The herbs, the spices, the honey from the Drambuie. That's fun. That's really fun. But, you know, you get the flavor of the Scotch. It's coming through very well. A little bit of the peat note, not much. You don't get, I don't get a lot of smoke from a peat in here. But, you know, the blended whiskey, it's balanced. This is nice. But, I'm not going to drink all of this. Because now, we're going to go and make the Rusty Compass. Now, what is the Rusty Compass? The Rusty Compass is just it's a rusty nail that utilizes cherry Heering as well. Now, again, just like with the rusty nail, there's some idea about what you should use for the Scotch element of this. You could use blended Scotch like I'm going to use. You could also use Compass. You could basically the same thought process applies for the rusty nail or the Rusty Compass, where it's a Scotch, but you can choose the blended variety or a peated Scotch like Peat Monster, Ardbeg, Lagavulin, and Lafroig. So pick what you wish. I'm just going to go for continuity's sake. I'm going to go with the same Johnnie Walker Black. This is a stirred cocktail like the other, so I'm grabbing my mixing glass. And I need 3/4 ounce of Drambuie. I need a 1/2 ounce of cherry Heering. You may remember cherry Heering from my Blood and Sand episode. And now 1.5 ounces of Scotch. Again, I'm using Johnnie Walker Black. More ice in, bar spoon again down. Give this a stir. Another rocks glass, big cube of ice. I'm going to use my julep strainer for this one. Julep strainer down, strain. And this is a Rusty Compass. Cheers. That's interesting. This tastes more like a Rob Roy to me. The cherry Heering, the Drambuie, the Scotch. It almost feels like, to me, and it's been a while since I've had a Rob Roy, but it almost tastes to me like a variation on a Rob Roy. If you added sweetness. I don't know what to make of it overall. Like, it tastes fine. It's a little bit sweeter than this baby. Of the two, I lean more towards the Rusty Compass. The subtle extra sweetness from the cherry Heering, the cherry liqueur, to me adds more than the Rusty Nail does. That's not to say that the Rusty Nail is bad, just my palate for me, I prefer slightly sweeter cocktails, so this is more up my alley. Both are good though. I mean, especially if you are a Scotch drinker, especially if you like blended scotches or even lightly peated scotches, this would be just fine. Either or. If you want to spend the extra money and get cherry Heering to go along with it, it adds more dimensions that you can use for, let's say, the, not just for the rusty compass where you use Drambuie as well, but also for the blood and sand, which utilizes equal parts that include the blended scotch, the cherry Heering, what have you. I did that a while ago and I talked about it again a couple months ago. But either or, these are fine. Maybe a little bit of sweetness here, not in the form of maybe a little bit of sweetness here, not in the form of cherry Heering because that will change the color. But maybe I'm going to try this. I'm going to add a bar spoon of simple to this. Just going to add a small amount. Just to see if I can get a little bit closer to my preferred taste profile. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. Just to me, it's a little on the dry side. And for those of you that don't know, this is 2-to-1 simple syrup, 2 part sugar, 1 part water. I did a video a couple weeks ago about it. You want to take a look at it? Link down below for how I make my syrups. So I'm going to try this again with a little bit of simple. See if that helps things a little bit. Okay. Yeah. To me and my palate, adding a little bit of simple to this helps. It brings up just a little bit of sweetness, helps elevate things to a better and a more pleasing level to me and my palate, me and how I like things. Whereas this, you don't really need the simple. Yeah, this is sweeter than this. So for me personally, I'm all about the rusty compass. But the rusty nail, if I make it, I'll add half a bar spoon or a bar spoon of simple, and it will be just fine. It will still please the palate for me. But for me personally, I prefer a rusty compass. If you like the video, then please hit the like button, comment, subscribe, and share the video, please. If you want to use any of the barware that I use on my show, check down below. There is a link to kit.co, which has everything I utilize in my bar under the sun, aside from the alcohol, of course. They're all Amazon affiliate links, which means if you click the link, make a purchase of the item, I receive a bit of the kickback. It helps out the channel. Thanks in advance if you choose to do so. Find all my socials in the description below, and I'm getting back to streaming. I'll be back on Saturdays at roughly 8 p.m. Eastern on the assorted streaming channels that you see here, and it should be a fun time. Who knows? We'll see what's going on. Until next time, thank you for watching. I will be back real soon with another cocktail. This has been The Beginner's Bar.